The nanny from the heartland. The image on the screen was unbelievable. There, on the feed from the small security camera installed in our London living room, was my son, Max. He was sitting motionless in front of the flickering television, bathed in its artificial glow. Before him lay a pile of cookie wrappers and a carton of sugary fruit juice. He was only 6 years old, an age when he should have been running, jumping, and scraping his knees. Instead, his small back was hunched, his posture defeated. There was no laughter, no sound at all. I froze, my hand instinctively clutching my chest. As a mother, was I responsible for this? Had I failed him? The tears of regret stung my eyes. I worked irregular shifts at a popular restaurant, bouncing between days and nights, perpetually guilty for the hours I lost with my son. Mom, are you not playing with me today? Max's small voice would echo in my memory, hurting more than any physical blow. My husband, Andy, was no better. Even when home, he was tethered to his computer, buried in Zoom meetings and paperwork. Dad, play with me, Max would plead. And Andy, stressed and distracted, would recite the same mantra. I'm sorry, buddy. I can't right now. Day after day, this was our reality. We needed help. We needed someone who could prepare meals, play with him, and bring rhythm to his life. Not just a placeholder to kill time, but someone to truly guard Max's childhood. Desperate, we began our search. 2 candidates eventually stood out. The first was Laura, a young, vibrant local woman with a posh accent and boundless energy. The second was Mrs. Martha Higgins, an elderly American woman who had moved to the UK a decade ago to be near her grandchildren. She had a soft, matronly demeanor and hailed from the Midwest. Mrs. Higgins had a warm smile and a comforting, slow drawl, but she moved deliberately. She took her time answering questions, pausing to think. During the interview, I hesitated. She seems so old-fashioned, I whispered to Andy. And she moves so slowly. Max needs someone energetic. Maybe she's too old to keep up. Andy seemed to agree. Laura is younger. She can run around with him. For Max's development, maybe high energy is better. I nodded, convincing myself it was the logical choice. We hired Laura. When Laura arrived, she greeted us with a bright hello that seemed to light up the room. My doubts vanished. On the first night, she sent a photo of Max smiling. He's such a good boy. We're having a blast. She texted. I breathed a sigh of relief. Yet a nagging feeling remained. In the photo, the living room looked sterile, unnatural, like a show home. Were the toys put away? I wondered. I brushed it off as paranoia. But days later, the change in Max was undeniable. At breakfast, when I offered him toast and eggs, he shook his head. No. I want cookies. This sudden refusal was shocking. Max, who used to eat anything, now only wanted sugar. That evening, I came home to find the living room perfectly tidy again, with Max curled on the sofa, zombie-like. What did you play today, sweetie? I asked. I don't remember, he whispered. A mother's intuition is rarely wrong. I asked Andy, but he dismissed it. Kids' tastes change. He's probably just tired. I couldn't accept that. My suspicion boiled over one night when I found the kitchen bin overflowing with empty wrappers. Is this his dinner? Cold sweat pricked my skin. Behind Laura's bubbly facade, what was happening? I decided I could no longer ignore my gut. We need to check the camera recordings, I told Andy. He looked annoyed. Are you really that suspicious? Yes. Look at him. We opened the laptop. The moment I pressed play, the air left the room. It was lunchtime. Max was sitting at the table, but there was no lunch, just bags of chips and candy. Laura was beside him, smiling that fake smile. Good boy, she said. Eat up. My heart hammered against my ribs. This can't be real. The video continued. Max reached for his building blocks. Laura snatched them away and shoved them onto a high shelf. No playing today. You'll make a mess. She turned on the TV. Max mumbled, I want mommy's food. Laura laughed, a cruel sound. Mommy's food is gross. This is better. Tears streamed down my face. Beside me, Andy's fists were clenched white. On screen, Max stared blankly at the TV. He didn't laugh. He didn't run. He sat still, as if serving a sentence. This isn't childcare. Andy's voice trembled with rage. This is neglect. It ends tomorrow, I said. The next morning, we sat in the living room, waiting. Laura breezed in with her usual good morning. Sit down, Andy said, his voice ice cold. We played the footage. The screen showed Laura feeding Max junk and bad-mouthing us. Laura shrugged, unbothered. What's the problem? He's quiet, isn't he? Isn't that easier for you? Her lack of remorse made my blood boil. You drugged him with sugar and took away his playtime. You call this caring for a child. If you don't like it, raise him yourself, she snapped, her mask falling completely. You're the ones who are too busy to be parents. I stood up. Leave. Now. She scoffed, troublesome parents, and slammed the door. I collapsed onto the sofa. I'm so sorry, Max, I sobbed. I made the wrong choice. Max wandered in, rubbing his eyes. Mommy, I hugged him tighter than I ever had. The damage, however, was done. The next morning, I made toast and scrambled eggs. Max pushed the plate away. No cookies? Max, this is good for you, I pleaded. He just stared at his lap. It's a habit now, Andy whispered, sounding defeated. Trust is so fragile. We were back to square one, but with a traumatized child. We couldn't stop working, but the thought of another stranger terrified us. Then the phone rang. It was the agency. We are terribly sorry about your experience, the manager said. If you are willing, Mrs. Higgins is still available. She has excellent references. Mrs. Higgins, the elderly American woman. I remembered her gentle smile. Is it too late? I asked Andy. He nodded. Let's meet her again. Mrs. Higgins arrived the next day. She stood with the same quiet dignity. I'm sorry we didn't choose you first, I said, feeling ashamed. She smiled, her eyes crinkling. Don't you worry, honey. You did what you thought was best for your boy. That's what mothers do. Her forgiveness washed over me. She wasn't focused on formalities. She was focused on the heart. On her first morning, Mrs. Higgins didn't rush. She sat quietly in the living room. She didn't force a game. Why aren't you playing? I asked, anxious. Patience, dear, she said. He needs to feel safe before he can open up. We wait. Eventually, Max peeked at her. What are you doing? Mrs. Higgins held up her hands against the sunlight streaming through the window. Making shadows, she said softly. Look. This is a bunny. She wiggled her fingers, creating a shadow puppet on the wall. It was a simple, old-school game. No batteries, no screens. Max's eyes widened. Can I do it? Of course. She guided his small hands. There. You made a bird. I did it. Max beamed. It was the first real smile I'd seen in weeks. Mrs. Higgins wasn't just babysitting. She was healing him. The food, however, was the biggest hurdle. Max still refused real meals. One afternoon, Mrs. Higgins took a red apple to the sink. Max, come help me wash this. Max hesitated, then joined her. He scrubbed the apple under the water. Look how shiny it is, Mrs. Higgins said. When you wash it with care, it tastes better. She sliced it and put it on a plate. Here. The apple you washed. Because he had invested effort into it, Max took a bite. It's sweet. It's not about the portion size, Mrs. Higgins told me later. It's about the courage to take that first bite. A few days later, Mrs. Higgins was in the kitchen, a cloud of flour around her. The smell of baking, rich, buttery, and warm, filled the house. What's that smell? Max asked. Homemade buttermilk biscuits, Mrs. Higgins said. Just like my grandmother made in Wisconsin. Wanna help? She let Max press his hands into the soft dough, kneading it. You have to be gentle, she instructed. Put your love into the dough. When the golden brown biscuits came out of the oven, Max grabbed one. He took a bite, his eyes lighting up. Yummy. It's comfort food, Mrs. Higgins winked at me. He's eating real food again. Then came the soup. Mrs. Higgins simmered a pot of chicken noodle soup. The savory aroma of broth, celery, and carrots drifted through the hallway. It was the smell of home, of care. "Soup warms the soul," she said, placing a bowl before him. Max, used to cold sandwiches or cereal, took a tentative sip. "It's warm," he whispered. Then he drank it all. "The kitchen is the heart of the home," Mrs. Higgins explained. "If the table is warm, the family is safe." Finally, she introduced him to something truly different. "Today, we're having grits," she announced. "Grits?" I asked. "Isn't that an American thing?" "Creamy cheese grits," she corrected. "Soft, warm, and nutritious." She placed a bowl of the creamy, yellow porridge in front of him. It was a texture Max had never seen. "Try it, sugar," she coaxed. Max took a spoonful. "It's soft and cheesy." He ate the whole bowl, scraping the bottom. "Max," she said gently when he finished. "There's an old saying, 'Waste not, want not.'" Max tilted his head. "It means we appreciate every bite because someone worked hard to make it and the earth worked hard to grow it. We don't throw away blessings." Max nodded solemnly. "I'm full. Thank you, Mrs. Higgins." I teared up. In London, we teach manners, but this was different. This was gratitude. One night, I came home late, exhausted. The old fear crept in. "Is he okay?" I checked the camera. Max was tucked in bed. Mrs. Higgins was sitting beside him, reading a storybook, her voice low and soothing. She smoothed his hair, pulled the blanket up, and sat there for a moment, watching him sleep with a look of pure, protective love. "She's not a hire," Andy whispered, watching over my shoulder. "She's a grandmother." Mrs. Higgins also changed how Max viewed chores. One day they were playing with blocks. "Time to tidy up," she said. Max pouted. Laura said, "I don't have to." "Well," Mrs. Higgins said firmly but kindly, "in my house, taking care of your things shows you respect yourself. A distinct man keeps a distinct house." She made it a game. Max lined up his shoes perfectly. "I did it." "Proud of you," she beamed. That weekend, we invited Mrs. Higgins to stay for dinner. We wanted to thank her properly. We made a roast, and she brought her chicken noodle soup. "Yay!" "Mrs. Higgins' soup." Max cheered. We sat down, and Andy looked at her. "Mrs. Higgins, why do you do this? You treat him like your own blood." She paused, looking at her soup. "My children are back in the States, grown up with lives of their own. I had all this love left over," she said softly. "Love isn't something you hoard. It's meant to be shared with whatever child needs it." I cried then. We had looked for a service provider. We found a family member. Months later, a video of our story, of Max's transformation from a zombie to a happy, biscuit-kneading boy, went viral. The comments poured in from around the world. From New York, "That's that old-school American hospitality. We need more of that village mentality today." From Paris, "The idea of the dinner table being the center of education. It is beautiful." From Berlin, "Teaching a child to clean as a form of self-respect, not a duty. Brilliant." Mrs. Higgins, with her grits, her biscuits, and her waste not, want not wisdom, hadn't just saved our son. She had reminded us and thousands of others that feeding a child isn't just about calories. It's about nourishment.